Well, good morning, everybody. It is 8:30, and we are ready to start our Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Forum for March 15, 2022. I'm Laura McCletty, one of the facilitators, along with Mary Johnson, Jackie Edwards Walton, uh, Steve Johnson, Nathalie McElrath, uh, Winston Robinson, Saritha Sherrill, and Carlenia Ivory. This morning we have as our speakers, or we have a forum that's open for the candidates that are running for mayor, for the mayor of the city of Charlotte. We always like to start off with a prayer. So I would ask if Jackie would lead us in a word of prayer.
Good morning, Lord. We thank you for your very many blessings. We ask that you just bless the proceedings today as we listen to the candidates interested in being mayor of our great city. We ask that you just bless each and every person that's on this call and bless our world. We thank you for who you are. In the name of the soon coming King, amen.
Thank you, Jackie. We have with us so far, we have our present mayor, Miss By Alexander Lyles. We have Miss Tigress McDaniels, who is uh, one of the candidates, and we have Lucille Puckett. Now, I don't see any of the others that are here, but we did get information from Stephanie D. Sarakaga that's sharing that she was not feeling well this morning, could not be with us. So we have those three individuals that will be presenting to us this morning, and we will allow them at least 2 minutes to just share. Well, we would allow, since it's three, we would allow them 3 minutes to share. And Nathalie, raise your hand, is our timekeeper, and she will call time after 3 minutes, and you have 30 seconds to conclude your presentation, after which we would ask everyone that if you do have a question, that you place it in the chat, and I will ask the question. If you want to direct your question to one of these individuals, indicate that in the chat that you would like that particular person to answer your question. If not, I would assume that we will allow each individual that's each one of our candidates to answer the question. And once they answer the question, we're asking you to just take a minute or so to answer the question. Once again, Nathalie will notify you when your minute is up, and you'll give us 30 seconds after that to answer the question that's being asked at that particular time. We also, at the conclusion of the Tuesday Forum, like to identify our elected officials as well as the candidates that are running, and allowing them less than 25 seconds to just share with us what position you're running for, and just say a little bit about, just share information about who you are. So with that being said, we will begin our presentation, and we're going to start with our present mayor of Charlotte, By Alexander Lyles. So By, 3 minutes you
Thank you.
have to present.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with the Tuesday morning, Sarah Stevenson Tuesday morning, and thank you for honoring her in that way. I want to say this is I think our first mayoral forum, so it's a moment that we can really recognize as the beginning of this campaign season, and I'm glad to be joined by Ms. Puckett as well as my other opponent, who I do not know as well as I know Ms. Puckett. So thank you all for being here today. Charlotte is now the 16th largest city in the country and one of the 15th fastest growing cities in the country. And I am asking for your support for this, for my third term as mayor. You know, in Charlotte, we have 2-year terms. So I've actually had the opportunity to serve you through an amount of change around that growth that's really significant. And I want to talk a little bit about what my values are, as well as the achievements that I think our city has accomplished during the time that I've been in office. One of the very first things that you know, I ran and not only ran on affordable housing, but I have written affordable housing plans for the city way before I became mayor or on the city council. And I'm proud to say affordable housing, with your support, and I know it made a difference, your support of our $50 million and the private sector match, we now have 4,700 units of affordable housing in a pipeline. But we've done more. We've actually mandated that any project that we approve must have 20%, 30% and below. That is generally in the responsibility of Livian and the federal government, but we know that that was not enough. We're also going to be a major participant in the new homeless plan that has been drafted. We haven't had a chance to see it all yet, but we know that that is still an issue in our city. The second thing I'd like to address that we've done so much work around is getting good jobs. The city now has a minimum wage for our own employees of $20 an hour. And we're going to do more because we recognize what's going on and we have to lead the way. But if you remember back a couple of years ago when I was elected before, is that $15 was what it was. Now Bank of America is going to 25. Our hospital systems are at 20. Leading by example has been a really great thing to increase minimum wages in this community, or living wages in this community. I also want to say we got through COVID in a very tough way. I remember the day, March 11th, when this came up, and I was in the office and we started talking about how to plan for COVID. Fortunately, the federal government sent CARES money. We put 70% of our CARES money into the community, small businesses, people, so that they would be able to close. So I ask for your continued support to go on this path to make Charlotte a more progressive and equitable city, addressing those things. I think our greatest challenge today is creating equity across the city, particularly when it comes to our neighborhoods and mobilities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that if that's something that someone wants to hear more about. So thank you for having us today, and I look forward to this continued dialogue, and I hope that you will see the merits that we are taking on as a community and that we're working hard to accomplish. And I really want to continue to be a part of it as serving as your mayor.
Thank you so much. Next, we will have Lucille Puckett. You're on mute. You're not, we can't hear you, Lucille.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucille Puckett, and I'm running once again, and I'm offering myself up to service to be a consistent voice for the people. It is hard, y'all, to sit on the sideline and watch our city go unchanged. In fact, worsening for the underserved and the underprivileged. The playing field is not equal, and not even close, in fact. Certain issues is not even being addressed. You know, I hear our mayor talk about the affordable housing. When we talk about affordable housing, we talk about affordable to who? Our city sees so many now homeless people, people being evicted at a high rate. Not even all the money that the CARES Act offered to our low underserving population has kept our people from being evicted or even homeless. When we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about a 1-unit bedroom for $1,200. How many of us know that that's not affordable? And even when we talk about our wages being raised to $15 an hour, that is not enough to afford a $1,200 1-bedroom unit when most of our families have 2, 3, 4 children that needs a 2 or 3 bedroom. And then when we look at all of the things that's being built and all of the units that's being built. Again, the underprivileged and the underserved cannot afford those units. So when we're talking about affordable housing, we need to also be talking about low income housing. Also, a homicide rate. Our homicide rate is steadily increasing. Homicides plague our community, and those things are not being, addressed. Our youth violence is running rapid in the city of Charlotte, and those things are not being addressed. We have to look at everybody in the city of Charlotte, not just certain sectors of Charlotte that's being impacted when we're talking about we have all inclusive city and an all inclusive mix. Our people as African American are being highly displaced with our plans and our policies that we're implementing here in Charlotte. We can look at Brooklyn Village, for example, and it's been decades. We have to have a mayor that is ready to, just take a stand against all odds and impact for all of Charlotte. So again, I'm offering myself up to service. I ran in 13, 17, 19, and I'm running on these consistent changes on housing, on youth, on the homelessness. These things has not changed. And if we're not making change and segue in these areas, if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. Again, my name is Lucille Puckett, and I'm asking for your vote and your support today.
Thank you. Tigress.
Yes, good morning. Goodness. Lucille makes excellent points. And I'm known as the straight shooter. And so the straight shooter is not always that popular. Too often, voters elect their friends, the people that, as Vi stated, that you are more familiar with. Why you're not familiar with me is no fault of my own. I'm engaging in the community. I am most readily available. And those who know that. They can call me, they text me, they @ me on Twitter, they @ me on Facebook, and you can look at the response or responsiveness rating, which is on Facebook, on Twitter conspicuously, and it is highly responsive. So that means I respond within less than 5 minutes. And not only am I responsive, but I am known as a doer as well. Doers also, ironically enough, they get a bad rep because no one likes the high achiever. No one likes the person that can do and get things done more efficiently than another. It pits the efficient against the not so efficient, or the inept against the apt. So what I'm asking you to do very simply, because you already know my qualifications. No insult to Lucille. We have a great relationship. She knows that. The reason why Vi has no relationship with me is because she has chosen that. I am readily available, but we have to stop electing friends, electing people that you feel, because you have familiar ties with them, that they will do a better job, because that has proven to you to not be the case. Quite oppositely, quite polar oppositely to you every single election term. In this last election cycle, when I ran against these two young ladies and the late gentleman, it was very clear. You all know me to be the scientist at the doctoral level with regards to infrastructure, clean air buses, which are not clean. I just reported on that the other day. You see them conspicuously spewing pollution. One of my expertise is, or areas of expertise, is air quality. Building atop wetlands. I'm sorry? Time. Building atop wetlands and things of that nature. Again, you know my qualifications. It's up to you. I am making myself available once more, and I will continue to run. And as I always say, when they fail you again, I'll be here.
Okay, thank you. We have another candidate here, Mr. Willis Draughton. Is that correct?
Good morning. No, it's Willis Drone. Sorry, my voice is a little gone. My name is Willis Drone Jr.
Are you a candidate for mayor, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'm running as an independent, just for the people. And right now, I have to get a certain percentile of signatures to be able to be on the ballot by May 17th. So that's the process that I'm on right now.
Okay. Well, we will allow you 2 minutes if you'd like to speak at this time.
I appreciate the time. I thank y'all for having me this morning. First and foremost, I want to thank God for the opportunity. Again, I'm here, born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm an owner of a barber and beauty salon for the last 20 years, and I've had the opportunity to actually touch my community. And again, I appreciate everybody for the efforts and what everybody does do. I don't really know too much about the don'ts. I like to talk about the do's. I like to see solutions. Let's create solutions to fix problems. I feel like everybody right here at the room right now has an answer. I feel like if we work together and unify, we can make it all work. I'm here again. I'm not here to compete. I was chosen to be in this position by the people. And what really helped push the push at this moment is the CATS bus driver situation. But I've actually been into the community for a while dealing with homeless. But my big issue is education for our youth. Our youth has to change. We have to start giving them better curriculum. You know, we have curriculums that go home to our parents, and our parents don't understand those curriculums. You know, underpaid teachers that doesn't have the inspiration to even go to work. You know, I want certain people to govern and touch the spirits of our kids. Our youth is going to be our future. You know, our homeless situation it's not hard to fix. We actually touch the homeless every day. I've been blessed to be a part of a lot of nonprofit organizations around in the community that push the touch on the ground. Again, you know, for the work that you guys and ladies do, I appreciate you. So again, I mean, I'm here for the voice of the people. I've been in a position to really hear the people. I'm not saying y'all haven't, and I appreciate the voices. And again, you know, I've been reaching out to if somebody take the phone off of mute, was the time for me to finish.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. But I'm gonna finish up. But again, I appreciate y'all. Anything that I can do to be a part of the help for our community, that's what I'm here for. And again, my name is Willis Jones Jr. You might hear me in the community as Big Red the Voice. And I appreciate y'all. Remember to be you and be great.
Okay. Everyone, please. Everyone, please.
It's Jackie's computer.
It's Jackie.
Yeah, it's Jackie's.
Okay.
Yes, man. I just cut it short because I know it's echoing. But again, I appreciate everybody's time. God bless everybody, and hopefully we can continue to just work for the better cause of our community.
Thank you. Okay, we're in the questioning part of our presentation. The first question we have is to Mayor Lyles. Racial bias has been a major problem within the CMPD going back to Chief Putney. Supervisors have recognized racial bias, and there have been several stories in the media regarding the subject matter. What have you done to combat this problem during your 2 terms in office? As for the mayor candidates, what would you do if elected to combat this problem? So we're going to start with the mayor. Vi, you with us?
I think
You're on mute.
Okay, I'm ready. having responsibility for policing in this community has been particularly of interest to everyone as we've experienced what I believe is the impact of COVID, the impact of the loss of jobs, the impact of having young people without hope. And I understand that greatly. And that's one of the reasons that we convened a citizens group that has several members of the Tuesday morning group on it to talk about what does the community want to see and do. And that became a document adopted by the council called Safe Charlotte. And it's an effort that we can't do just one time. It requires that we continuously look at this. Now, when you talk about the idea of racial bias, I want to say that racial bias and racial inequities are really, really difficult as we change years and years of history. And what we've tried to do is have leaders at the top that care deeply about the issue so that they can work through it. So I think that Johnny Jennings has done a terrific job. And I have to say this because I think that he has embraced change. He has been willing to address issues like putting forth groups on mental health. He has eliminated tear gas use. No-knock warrants will not be done in the night or in the dark. And so these are some of the things that we're doing. But specific to our personnel, all of us know with COVID, we're having a tough time attracting people back to work. And I think this is going to be a struggle that we have. And if we're seeing racial bias inside the department, we need to call it out so that we can get more people to come in, people of color, Black and brown, to work there. But we also have to make sure that as we're doing this, that everyone understands that our policies do not support this bias. We have had examples, and where there have been examples where people have complained or where we've had a difficult time, we have had the chief respond to them with disciplinary actions.
Thank you. Okay, now, as the mayoral candidates, what would you do if elected to combat this problem? And we're going to start with Lucille. 1 minute, please.
Well, it'll be less than 1 minute because, unless you are actually in those shoes and actually in the room to be able to talk with those people, you can't really say, well, I would do this or I would do that. But conversations need to be had around racial bias. And again, like she said, Chief Jennings is, on point, when it comes to addressing, all these racial disparities and things in our police department. But I also think, like Mayor says, when we're talking about the hiring process, we need to look at those hiring process to hire more people that look like us out here in our communities. Even with the trucking industry, they are lowering the age for, not to say that, that's a total perfect solution to 18. We need to look at those hiring qualities to hire people that look like us, because we are disqualified from the start to be on the police force. So, just having that conversation would be a great start.
Thank you. Tigress.
The mural on North Tryon is a great metaphor for the pervasive issues surrounding race issues in Charlotte. Dilapidated, unattended, forgotten, driven over, disrespected. It is amazing that it was even the decision to place it there on such a busy street. So it was as if the forethought was dismissive in and of itself. And that's a great metaphor for race relations here in Charlotte. As a former federal ranger, the number one things that need to happen, legal education. Legal education is a huge bar from the community and understanding how law enforcement works. If you all recall, I continue to tell everyone that there will be legislative hurdles with the ISIS protests and the trying to stand against that. I told you all that would be the case, and no one listened to me, and that was the case. And a lot of people learned that during the pandemic. The truth of the matter is that classism is a major issue. I just spoke about that. A form of classism is voters hiring or electing their friends. There is no political class. That mindset is antiquated and needs to be dismantled. There is no legal professional class. That lends towards corruption because there is no sure checks and balances system in place. Individuals like myself, you all know I say it all the time, the standard is raised when I enter the room because I thankfully had parents who taught me that, who taught me to stand on my word and taught me to be true. Those things, those standards, that character can be used toward making the shift toward racial inclusivity for this city, which is not the case.
Thank you, Tigress. Okay, Willis.
Yes. Well, for the last 10 to 15 years, I had a partnership with the CMPD, Beyond the Blue Lights. What I do is I go in and speak to every recruiting class. So what we need to do is continue to talk to our recruiting class and speak to them how to talk to our community for the blue lights. What I do is I bridge the community with policing. You probably heard of the program Cops and Barbers. I was one of the organizers that came up with that with Gary McFadden over probably 8-10 years ago. I've been working with the CMPD ever since Monroe, the late Chief Putney, and now Chief Jennings. Again, I'm a native from here. We have to continue to put our works in and actually get in and put the work in our community. It's not just me. I have a lot of other community partners. We do training with the police department. So again, you know, for us as our community to get in and speak to the police, you know, that's what's going to create that relationships to stop the, you know, the racism, to get in there and really, you know, put them to the community. You know, I have a program also that I wanted to add it to it, that because of COVID, we couldn't. And what we do is after we speak to the police recruits, we would like to bring them on a ride along with the community leaders and introduce them to the community. One piece of it is, you know, these community officers, they ride around all day long in the car. And the only time they speak to the community is with the blue lights. And that's why it's called Beyond the Blue Lights. You have to get out and talk to our community, get to know our community. And once each of the other men get to see and women get to see how to treat each other, it's about showing each other how to treat those. You know, a lot of times we do a lot of stuff on paper, but we don't show the act. And, you know, I try my best to show the act. And, you know, so that being said, we're going to continue to put the works in. You know, that's something that we do. So a lot of these issues that we speak on, we're putting the works in. Like Garcia Nelson, he's on the phone. He's one of the partners. I mean, we have great people around here that put works in that for years. And I mean, even Miss Lyles, I mean, I've seen her put works in. So I appreciate you too. Again, we're gonna continue to do what we do, but that's one of the pieces I believe that will help us with the racism and the struggle between our community and even policing within itself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our next question is, this is one that was sent in. Mayor, as a mayor, would you commit to offer incentives to mainstream grocery stores to open on West Boulevard and Batesford Road, grocery stores such as Harris Teeter and Public? We'll start with Lucille.
Repeat that one more time.
Okay. Would you, as mayor, would you commit to offer incentives to mainstream grocery stores to open on West Boulevard and Batesford Road? And we're talking about grocery stores like Harris Teeter and Public.
If that's what the people want in those communities, then that's a conversation that needs to be had. Yes.
Okay, Tigress.
The first thing I would like to say is please do visit ctigressrun.com, because there I can actually give you a lot more answers in more detail. I've said this many times and I'll repeat it now. 1 minute is insufficient. This is not an effective way to vet your officials. Some people, they use emotional talking points. I don't do that. And I'm not going to change my character or water down my zeal and my resolve for change, transformative change, just to draw you in emotionally. You should find that disrespectful, in fact, because it's insulting to your intelligence. As it relates to the food deserts, which of course is part of my expertise, please listen to the fact that I keep mentioning that your problems, our problems that exist in this city and around the world, around the nation, they're no different. All of my expertise can be lent to assist and strategically plan to resolve those issues. Asking Harris Teeter and Publix to place stores on West and Betty's Ford, still it permeates racial divide, because we should be fostering the development of Black-owned grocers and small business grocers so there aren't food deserts in those areas. We should not be still begging major corporations to bail us out. The city is made up of people. When the people decide to be vested in their city, truly vested in their city, that's when the change will come. We have seen a million times over that you cannot throw money at things and hope it will go away. That's been Vi's process. That's been the city's process, believing and being over budget, having misappropriation of funds. It needs to stop.
Thank you. Vi.
I think on this, Tigress is correct. This is an opportunity for us that we're taking on right now. The county and the city have both determined that the way to address these food deserts is working with the neighborhood. So I want to say a shout out to the West Side Coalition. I want to say a shout out to the many people that have volunteered the hours and the days to create 2 co-ops, one being on West Boulevard and one being on Hoskins Road. I think that in this respect, rather than invest incentives in the retail market, and you know what Harris Teeter cost and you know what Publix cost, but the idea of mirroring what they've done in other communities like Asheville, North Carolina, where they've had a food co-op that they've operated for many years so that everyone would have access to fresh food, vegetables, as well as cost that makes it possible for you to feed your family. So the city, using ARPA's money, which is the second delivery of federal funds, is investing in the market on the west side. We've also contributed to a major investment by Mecklenburg County, which I have to say they've done a terrific job on the idea of not just a store on Hoskins Road, but a distribution center that will allow for more neighborhoods to open more markets. So we are addressing the food desert. Mecklenburg Council on Food Equity is really working hard, and believe me, this is something that we're aware of and taking action on. I think you'll see in our budget the information for the West Side Market. We've already approved the money for the Hoskins Market.
Time by. Thank you. Okay, Willis.
Yes, ma'am. I believe anytime that our community can get fresh food and get a high value of food is great. At the same time, you know, we putting this type of market in our community, and our community is not at the ability to pay and afford this. We need to make sure that our community can get these type of jobs. If we're going to allow these type of corporations in our community, then, you know, they should at least hire so many of our community members at a certain wage where they can afford to stay in these communities. So again, I feel like it's very important for us to have these opportunities, to have these fresh foods and these type of businesses that wasn't normally for our population. But at the same token, we got to keep our population in the position to enjoy what's new coming our way. So again, as of now, you know, it's always important for us to create new, but we want our people to be able to enjoy our new as well, not push them out.
Thank you. Okay. The next question is this is for all candidates. And let me remind you, 1 minute, please. Do you support Source of Income Discrimination Ordinance, SOID, and what can you do to get it passed? And we'll start with Tigress.
You said source
We
of
can't hear you.
income. This is
It's
source of income.
source
This is
of-
one legislation that I'm not
what?
familiar with. Source of income what?
Source of Income Discrimination Ordinance, SOID. You're not familiar with it?
I am not, and I'm most familiar with a lot, but I am not familiar with that. Can you please elaborate or give me a moment to look it up, and then I can give you information?
Vi, are you familiar with it?
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have a committee looking into the source of income discrimination ordinance right now. And the important thing about this for the decision for me is whether or not it actually helps increase affordability, or will it have an impact of decreasing the affordability. I believe that this is something that we ought to have. That because just because of the way that your money comes, no matter what bucket it comes out of, you ought to be, if you're able to pay an affordable for your rent, you ought to be able to do that. The city has many ideas around affordability. It's like we're looking at the source of income discrimination. We're looking at how evictions are done. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you have to file an eviction to get federal funds to keep you in your house. And those eviction records stay on longer than anything, more than bankruptcy, more than anything. So we've got to continue to put as many tools in the toolbox for affordable housing as we can. And source of income discrimination ordinance is one of them, along with many other things that we're trying to accomplish now.
Okay, I've looked it up, so I can answer if you're ready, or I can wait until the end.
Okay, yeah, you can wait until the end.
Thank
Lucille,
you.
would you like to address that? Lucille, would you like to address that?
No, that's something else that I would have to also look into. Of course, with our seated mayor, she would have all of this information, but that's one of the things that I am glad that, if winning the mayorship, coming into it, it's not just about the mayor. You have the city manager, you have all of the other current elected officials that have already been there that can kind of bring you up to speed about things. But one thing I want to say about the source of income legislative policy is that's something that really needs to be looked into, because when we discriminate from people who have Social Security or get disability, where you have people, when you're renting, they want you to have 3 times your income to rent their properties, which would keep you from being able to live in certain places. The source of income should not be a determining factor in that matter. So again, like Tigress, I'm not familiar with this piece, but something that definitely need to be looked into. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Willis, would you like to address it? Willis, would you like to address it?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm not really that familiar with it, but what I am familiar with is it's definitely it's tough for felons and people who get convicted and lose their homes. It's tough for them to get back into homes, so it does push them out. And I feel like that's what we're speaking about right now. So for me, listening to the community and listening to the issues and things that's happening, it's very concerning the way we see someone in a problem or in an issue, and we don't help them to get in a better position. It's time now. We see they have a problem. We see there's an issue. So let's fix that particular issue. If we know job is the issue, then let's work on the job. If we know mental health for that particular case is the issue, let's work with that so we can continue to build them. Because every time you hear a no, man, it's just devastating to the mental health. And, again, that's the discrimination that we're speaking about. Policies and procedures, it's tough on our community. It's set up for us not really to win. I mean, I'm a business owner, and it's tough for me to get things in my own community. I'm from here, and I work hard every day. So, again, I do understand it, and we do need to work on that. And again, I want to say this before I get off. Do I have a little time?
No, time's up.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. A question. This is for the mayor. We'd like to know what.
I didn't get an opportunity to answer the question.
I'm sorry. Oh, Tigress.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, if you want it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Just like Lucille said, some of the questions that you're asking are, of course, going to be specific to individuals who are already in that position and already have that readily available information. With the nomenclature that you used, I was not familiar with that particular bill or effort. However, the scope of things generally, absolutely. And what I did is I visited the American Bar Association. Some of you know that I'm in my last year of law school. So that now makes me a scientist, an economist, and soon to be a licensed attorney. This is a legal matter. The information that she just gave you is not on par with the legalities that surround this issue, okay? You can't just talk at landlords in North Carolina. You can't bully them into making the housing affordable, even as it relates to the federal subsidies and monies and affordable housing and the 20% affordability of the units. It's
time,
not a viable
Tigress,
effort.
Tigress, it's time.
Tigress Run for more information.
Okay. This is a question for the mayor. The question is, can you share with us the grassroots organizations that you have supported? If you can give us names of those grassroots organizations that you have supported in the community, and this is just for the mayor.
Okay, so I could get a list, and you can see where we have a complete list of what we call our partners in the community. But let me just start with a few. My Brother's Keeper, the West Side Coalition, the West Side Land Trust, many neighborhood meetings and attend those. I think the BPC would be one. These are the kinds of things that you do. I was just at the 5 Points Plaza dedication. My support is really focused on the idea around the things that I suggested in the Mayor's Racial Equity Fund. And that is to support Johnson C. Smith as an HBCU that is transformed into a way to create jobs for people that attend that school across our own city instead of having them go other places. My second part of that is to create opportunities that are relevant in today's upcoming market. So these are the kinds of things. And so Johnson C. Smith, our school systems, I have to agree. I can't remember whether it was.
Okay.
Okay.
Your time. Okay. Okay. This is for everyone except for the mayor. What will you do differently as a mayor? And we'll start with Willis.
Can you ask the question again? I'm sorry, my headset went out.
Yes. What would you do differently as a mayor?
Well, first I would listen. I can't say what I would do different. I'm gonna say what I would do. I would listen to the people. I would really deal with the grassroots organizations, such as the one she calls not the grassroots. Those are the high levels. The grassroots is us guys, the Hill Charlottes, the men, the BUB greats, the CUC 100s, like all these people, the cops and barbers. Those are the grassroots. And also the West Side Land Trust. We do work with those as well. So again, what would I do? I would just continue to work with the people, listen to the people, and really just continue to push. I'm even learning right now what a mayor can and can't do. Again, what I know we can do, we can listen to the people. When we hear it's a problem, let's be the voice for the people.
Okay. Tigress.
I'm going to give these in bullet points. Affordable housing right now is not affordable. I would have meetings, and again, you can visit ctigressrun.com because I've answered a lot of these questions online, and I've elaborated so that I'm not restricted by these time issues. I would lend my entire roster of expertise towards strategic planning, carry out audits, which have not been done. Audits are deemed to be some scary, invasive thing. But if you want to grow, then you have to change, and you have to embrace change, and you have to be truthful and honest. Infrastructure. She talks about the fact that everything is just fine and everything's great, but our epicenter, there's a foreclosure on that. Why? Why during this time, if there were monies that were fed into the city and the epicenter is now under foreclosure? CMPD, the homicide rate, and domestic violence rates. Why? Because people are not being reached. So there would be a lot of changes. Visit ctigressrun.com or call me. I'm available
Thank you.
all day.
Okay, Lucille?
Yes, again, like Willie said, I won't say what I would do different. I would just say what I would do. Um, and that start by being in the community. You have to be engaged with the community to know what difference there needs to be in these communities. We can always sit on the sideline and Monday morning quarterback and say what we would do or wouldn't do. But I'm gonna give you an example. When my son was murdered right in front of me, you have so many people say, well, I would have done this or I would have done that. But unless you're actually in that situation, you cannot say what you would do. Because in politics, as we know, the mayor doesn't even have a vote. So we have to engage our voters. We have to be able to have trust with our other uh, members of council. So I would start with that, building relationship where my other council members can, trust the process and trust that I'm going to do what's in the best interest of the city of Charlotte. So engaging our community and having these necessary conversations with the real grassroots people that's out here that's really doing the work.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is for all of the candidates. If the 1 cent transit tax is not approved either by voters or if on the ballot or by the General Assembly, how do you propose to fund the Charlotte Moves Transit Plan? And we'll start with Willis. Willis, did you
Yes,
get
ma'am.
that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm back. It's funny you asked me that. As much as I've been into the cat's business at the moment, it's a lot of information I've learned. But to really answer that correctly, I have to really sit down with my team. We have been gaining a lot of information, a lot of knowledge with funding, with a lot of policies and procedures. So, we're dealing with my team. We can definitely articulate better with that, and we're on the move. We're on the move with that piece right now.
Okay, thank you. Tigress.
Elect me and find out.
Okay, Lucille.
I would say that, that's a very important topic. But me being in this race is to address the homicides in our city, to address low income, affordable housing that's not being addressed, to address our youth violence. We are looking every day where our young people are being murdered or murdering people with guns. I don't have all the answers to all of the 1 cent sales tax, the other questions that our mayor may be at this point privy to. When she first was elected mayor, or anyone that was elected mayor, they didn't have all those answers. So I will not sit here and tell you that I have all those answers at this point in this moment. So in reference to the 1 cent sales tax, that would be something that once elected, or I would have to look more into. And I will have to discuss this with the rest of the city council. We are a team. It's not a one-person show.
Okay, thank you. This question is to all of the candidates, and we'd just like for you to elaborate on it a little bit. You may be a short answer. Do you shop on the West Side? And if you do, where? And we know we're talking about West Boulevard and Batesville Road. We'll start with you, Lucille.
I would say the West Side is the best side, but yes, I shop on the West Side. Whether it be the Food Lion, Mighty Midget, um, um, Kareem Shop, some of the other little stores, the Buy Wise, Burger King, McDonald's. I'm all on the West Side. I live on the West Side, so of course I shop on the West Side.
Okay, Vi?
Okay, so I think that all of us know that not only the chicken box is a member of my church, and we encourage everybody in our church to attend and patronize them, and I do. The Food Lion, of course. There's some fast food places, but just this week, when we opened the fifth Five Points Plaza, Jet's Pizza is coming. Rita's Ice is coming. Minority ownership in both of those businesses, as well as the property having minority ownership, having an accountant, mechanics and farmers, all of those are opportunities. The West Side is changing a great deal. Our issue is how to make sure that we maintain our culture there, as well as our history, and allow for minority participation and ownership in many things that we're doing. So when you think about that, that's what we're looking at. If you go across Oakline and you've got the new draft beer place, how do we make sure that we accommodate what's coming in as we get to the idea of Camp North End going across 77? So that's the focus. And so the Corridors of Opportunity program is allocating over $70 million. So we are ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Tigress?
Someone posted answer the question. I'm glad that you posted that. I'm glad that some of you, maybe you're not having an opportunity to say something and speak up, but I'm glad that you're there, because I'm very concerned about where this is going. We have to look at this in one way, and I'm going to quickly get to the question because I've got a laundry list of them, because I talk about them 24/7 on my YouTube channel, Tigress is a Verb. So you can go over there, because I won't be able to answer in the proper amount of time based on the restrictions. But why do you think that there are 3 Black people running against a Black woman? We generally stick together. Honey, that's the truth about Black America, especially during this time. We stick together. That alone should tell you what's going on. If you don't see it, I don't see how I can show you, okay? And everybody knows me to be Black. So if you think about these areas as if they are the Black hubs of Charlotte, which they are in one regard, but what we need to get away from, again, is this division, and we need to unify Charlotte, because there are Black-owned businesses on my side of town, and I support them as well. So shop Africa, dress Africa, go to Tigress is a Verb. You'll see all of my shopping that I've done all throughout the pandemic, all the money that I have poured in. When I got the $500 extra funds from EIDL, I poured it directly into the Black market that was at Concord Mills. There's no one doing more than me.
Thank you, Tigress. Tigress, you're going over time. Okay.
I happily did so, because this is not what this is about.
Willis?
How y'all doing? I'm actually.
I don't mind you muting me, but we're going to be respectful, because at the end of the day, we need
Tigress,
and it needs to stop. We need change. When are we going to change? When are we going to change, people? When? We look ridiculous. When are we going to change?
You can't do anything about that. Okay. Willis?
If she like my time, you can have it, baby. I'm from West Side, and I don't really have to say a whole lot. I'm from here, born and raised, and went to West Mac, Coolwood Elementary. I'm actually a business owner on the West Side for about 20 years now. I've been blessed to see my community come. And I see Mr. Arthur Griffin over there. I see you. Hello, sir. You might not remember me or not, but my mother used to run the dry cleaners on Carmen Quayle, and I used to hear you always. I'm that little kid, and now you probably remember. But yes, sir. God bless you, man. So I say this, I'm very in tune in the community. Born and raised, West Side. It's very important that we support our West Side. But I'm going to say this, our West Side hasn't really changed too much over the last 4 or 5 years. And I'm from here, born and raised. I put a lot of efforts in this community. And we still do a lot of give backs to a lot of unprivileged people around here that shouldn't be like this. Again, supporting our businesses, that's something I do every day. I encourage every one of my barbers to step out for lunch and let's go outside and meet our community. Let's go outside and talk to our folks. So again, by me being on the West Side of Charlotte, I even heard most of y'all speak and didn't speak about the West Side of Charlotte. Again, come on over. This is where I'm from, born and raised, West Side of Charlotte, and I thank God for it. And for those that do come, and Miss Lyles, you've been to a couple of my events. We give away 1,000 turkeys over here at Po' Boys, and I appreciate you coming for that too. And again, we're going to continue to work, and we continue to unify and unite. It's going to all work. And I thank y'all for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another question. With the 2040 plan pushing 10-minute neighborhoods, how would you, for the Far East, wait a minute, I've lost my question here. Sorry about that. I'm going to read this one. I have to go back to that one. At my church in West Boulevard, Carter, First Mount Zion Missionary Baptist, the homeless have invaded by using our church for sleeping in the hedges and for bathroom facilities. We have been cited on several occasions to clean up our property. We have called the police over and over, and we make them leave. Now, when they see the police, they move. Something's going on with this. Temporarily, we are in a process of referring it and patching cut holes. Can we get some help with that? And that is from, let me see that person. You might want to, Tidwell, you might want to address that. Can you address that in any way about that situation? Are you familiar with that situation?
Can you forward that? Can you forward that to me after the call? I will get someone to go in and look at that and see what's going on and see what we can do. So yes, just forward it to me. And that is just serving as mayor now. It is not about this forum, because I know that this is about reelection for me,
Right.
but this is about constituent services. Just send it to me and we'll get it done. And Mr. Marion, I worship on the West Side at Friendship. I do go to the Food Lion, and I make a purposeful visit often to those places, the Chicken Box, and that's what I wanted to say. And maybe one of my issues is that I try to look forward as well as where we are currently, and that's why I answered the question about Rita's and Jets, because I want them to be successful. So thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate any time you could give me that feedback.
Okay, we don't like to give feedback or debate anything that's being said. Okay, let me go to this question from Pat Campbell. With the 2040 plan pushing 10 minutes neighborhoods, how would you ensure that the Far East neighborhoods be, oh God, I keep getting caught on that. How would you?
Gentrified, I think, is it about gentrification?
The Far East Neighborhood Coalition, FinCo, be included when developers are trying to rezone the only commercial property to residential. A current example is rezoning petition on the books 2021-224. So, and at this time, I would like for that to be addressed for Pat. And Pat, if need be,
we would allow what you did to remove me and restrict me. But as someone who has great expertise in computer programming, it was very simple to log back in. That is the problem.
Tigress, you are being
disrespectful. I said nothing that was inappropriate. My time was not up. That was inappropriate for what you did to restrict and remove me as a mayoral candidate. It was childish. And it does not serve this city at all. It shows a terrible character for anybody in leadership.
I accept responsibility.
We do have guidelines, and we try to stick with our guidelines and respect for each other on the Tuesday morning forum. So we just ask everyone to just be respectful and follow our guidelines. So that's the only thing that we're asking. Let me see. The question is for Vi. Do you believe gentrification is a way to decrease crime?
Laura, I can't hear. I heard, do I believe
I'm sorry. The question is for you is, do you believe gentrification is a way to decrease crime?
No, that implies that crime is something that only those that have one place in this world. No, absolutely not. I do not believe that gentrification is a way to decrease crime. I think that gentrification is someplace, in some ways, very difficult to measure, but we are seeing it happen. And so what we've got to do is figure out what can we do about it. We just took a trip to Austin, Texas, and one of the things that they did is if you develop along a transit line, that 10% of the housing must be workforce housing. So that's 60% and under of medium income. These are some tools that other people are using, and that's going to be one of the things that this council as a team will have to struggle to accomplish. So I don't believe gentrification is about crime at all, because everybody commits crime. In fact, I think the data will show that people, it doesn't matter about your race as much as it matters about how left out of the boundaries of this community you have.
Thank you, Vi. And I'd like to thank all of you candidates that have participated this morning. It is now 9:31. This is an opportunity for those that may have some burning questions.
I would love to get just the mayor's thoughts and reactions now that she has just kind of an open floor. Just some things she would like to say.
Well, Winston, thank you. We were talking about you in advance of the meeting started, that those babies are coming pretty quickly. So thank you for even taking the time as a dad to do this work, and really appreciate it. You know what I would like to say is that one of the most difficult parts of being on a Zoom call is to be able to really express what you have your values around and how you deal with a lot of these issues. So I want you to know that for me, the idea of leadership really means being true to your values of being truthful about what you're accomplishing, being transparent in a way that works for people to understand and communicate, and to be responsive to this community. This city is now almost 900,000 people, 3,000 square miles. And so every part has to have the ability to see success, especially those that we haven't. So I want to just say that my emphasis on the idea of equity is to really address it head on, and address it on the way that we talk about our educational system, to address it in the way that we talk about jobs, and as well to address it in the way that we bring forward. And I tell the story all the time. There are many people in this community that have supported its growth that didn't get a chance to participate in it. So now we've got to change that, and we've got to create participation in the opportunities that we have, which is why we have the Corridors of Opportunity program. Now that's tax dollars going into it. But one of the things that I believe most important is that tax dollars begin an initiative, but commerce and money from the private sector really make it sustainable. So that's why the challenge to the banking community to change, we found during COVID, we knew because of inequities of being Black and brown, but the idea that COVID came and it showed clear disparities in health and banking and jobs, and being able to maneuver through 2 years of a pandemic showed this community that we got to step up. And that's not just the governmental sector, it is the private sector as well. We have to build on these relationships that bring inequities clearly into focus and have ways to resolve them. And that's the leadership that I think about, because I believe that that's the way that this city will be successful. We're going to grow the size of Asheboro and Greensboro in the next 20 years, 400,000 additional people. And the support for the 2040 plan
Can you hear
to
me?
create opportunity. So what we've got to do is address what we're going to do as we continue this growth. And that's one of the reasons that I'm running for re-election. The campus on the medical school will have over 5,000 jobs that don't require a 4-year degree. If we have mobility and bus rapid transit services from the east side of town, which is a job desert, to the medical campus, we have the opportunity to create jobs that pay more than 80% of AMI right now. And we've got to make these connections possible. And I want to continue. I want to make these connections for everyone's success to be possible. So that's what I see as our vision. I want to hear more about what the vision is in the community, and also the ideas that we have that outgrow every place. Not dividing us, but bringing us together is a really important part. And there are those that can help and those that need to be served. And I know that this is the thing that we have to do best in Charlotte, which is, create a vision that we all commit to on the city council. And council races are very important. I think Tigress said, or Lucille said, the mayor doesn't have a vote. The mayor has the ability to pull people into the office together to have the conversation about what we need to do. And that's what's important for me. So thank you for letting me have a few more comments.
This is Dr. Blanche Penn. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the mayor a question. You talked about equity, and that's really a good thing to talk about. But what does that look like for housing? We've been fighting housing for a long time, and it's getting worse. It's like the developers are taking over, and the rent, the mortgage are going higher and higher. So what is your take on that particular area?
Dr. Penn, I'm really glad that you said we, because I've been doing affordable housing bonds since it was actually one of the things that I did as a staff person when we started out at $15 million. And now that we're up to almost 100 million, we will be having a bond referendum in this fall. And I'm going to encourage people again to step up and vote for that $50 million, because what we've been able to do with that is to grow opportunities for over 4,000 new units. And that's what we're doing right now. That's the impact of a vote that makes something really significant happen. What I believe that we've got to do is keep people in housing. And when we did the ramp work that we were keeping people during the COVID effort, we kept people from becoming homeless by paying their rents. And we paid out millions of dollars to keep people from becoming homeless. Now we have to figure out what are those impediments of what stands in the way of opportunity for creating that. And I believe at some point the city council will have to consider an ordinance that really requires people to invest in affordable housing as they could do developments. If we create an economic development opportunity by installing the Silver Line, what we'll have to do is buy land to put affordable housing in that space. And if you decide that you're going to build along that property, that you're going to build because of that rail, then we've got to tell you, you've got to invest in affordable housing. So it has to change, because 50 million is not going to make a difference. It is in the private sector that we have to make that difference. So I'm going to be supportive of that initiative, that if we create the opportunity for you to be successful as a developer, that you have to give back and participate in our ability to serve the people that live here. So with that, Laura, that was a great question, Dr. Penn. I am going to have to go for my 10 o'clock call. Everybody, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for honoring Sarah Stevenson. This is so important that we continue it. It's a voice that we need to form together. And so I see Lucille is still on. I have such respect for the work that she does, and I wish that I could be like her sometimes, but I can't. I know my lane is to understand and reach out and keep moving the city in a direction that everyone can participate in. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, and you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Willis Drone, Jr.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank y'all. Hopefully I can continue to be a part of more forums and debates, and I appreciate everything that y'all are doing, and let's continue to unite. And if anybody has a question for me before I get off the phone, I'm more than welcome to take one or two, whatever will have me. But I appreciate y'all for the time. Thank y'all again.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Y'all too. It'll be great.
So, Puckett, I have a question for you. This is Vivian Sproul. Lucille, what do you consider as affordable housing? Because that's a big question. Because everyone doesn't look at affordable housing the same way.
And you are exactly correct, because when some talk about affordable housing, some can afford to pay $100. Some can afford to pay $3,000. So when we talk about, affordable housing, it's who can afford what, when, and where. But we need to look at and address low income housing, I would say, per se, because when you have people that works in like McDonald's or a Food Lion or places like that, and they are receiving the minimum wage or just say $8 an hour, they can't afford what for the most part is being called affordable housing right now. So again, I think that term affordable housing is just thrown around like it's just a big heavy buzzword. We need to really be looking at low income housing for those that truly makes 30% of the AMI and not the 60 and the 80% of the AMI.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Because truly, $1,200 for a 1-bedroom is not affordable for the constituents here on that low totem pole, I should say, here in Mecklenburg County. We need to really look at units where there's maybe $500, $1,000 range. It just depends on the person's income level.
This is an open forum. I wanted to expound very quickly on what I was speaking about earlier. Oftentimes, when we are not familiar with legislation and the statutory vehicle, we cannot solve these issues. And when we elect individuals who are not familiar with it and do not know how to navigate that system and work with state legislatures who will make those decisions, not necessarily at the county level, then you're dead in the water. As I said earlier, North Carolina is traditionally, historically, a landlord-favored state. I'm not saying that to insult landlords. I understand the commercial needs. I'm an economist for the landlords as well. I understand that with regards to the demand and quote-unquote supply. The issue is that they have raised the rent, myself included, my mother's home, $200 twice. So $400 some apartment complexes have experienced with a raising of the rent. Now, my particular complex, which I'm not trying to highlight, and they're not paying me for this, but they have instituted a payment plan option going through Java Rent or something to that effect. I believe that is wonderful. We have to think outside of antiquated mindsets, because some of the legislation we're not going to be able to get changed or amended over a 2-year term or even a 4-year term, especially considering that there is so much tension between the parties in the state assembly. What has to happen is we have to think creatively. You have to allow individuals like myself. I'm not going to always think like you. There are going to be some ways that I do think like you. My thought pattern is consistent with the new millennial thought, and other generations who are just like me, free thinkers as well. You have to get creative. You also can't talk at. That's the problem now. Unfortunately, Mayor Vilaus has been talking at, the city has been talking at the landlords. Do this, we'll give you this money, and then this will work. That's not a viable option. As we see, it hasn't worked. It has failed. There has to be a creative way to work around the legislative hurdle, which is the fact that the law, Chapter 42, is finite. We're not changing Chapter 42 anytime soon. And we have to figure out how to help on the ground level with regards to maybe the creative element like Java Rent, working with landlords to actually work with one another.
Tigress, we're getting ready to close the
And I thought you said that you were not going to interrupt. You said that you wanted to be respectful, so I'm confused. You be allowed. I just spoke ad infinitum. As soon as I open my mouth, you have a problem. I'm confused. Okay. I haven't said anything problematic. You said it was an open forum.
Yeah, we
forum is over at 10 o'clock.
I close at 10 o'clock. It's after Tigress, and it's after 10 now.
So, everybody have a good day.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for having this forum today. Okay,
Change
have a
will
good day,
only
everyone.
come when you change.
Have a
Thank you,
great day,
everyone. This is
everyone, and
very
Have a good day,
helpful
everybody.
Okay,
forum.
Thanks for having
goodbye.
us.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye. Everybody have a blessed day.
Thank you, Miss Laura.
You also.